Russell Hornsby, you play a grieving, devastated father in the amazing 7 Seconds on Netflix. First of all, let's go back to the beginning. Why did you take on this part, and how did you get involved?
Well, first, how I got involved was my manager, Leonard Torgan, identified it in August of 2016, and on paper it was looked at as a small part. And at the time, I was doing a television series where, shooting up bad guys and killing monsters and those kind of things, and saw the part as a real opportunity to sort of to sink my teeth into something, to sink my teeth into a real character, a story, to have an overall character arc. And I wanted to really take advantage of that. And so the opportunity presented myself, and we went after the role. And there were a lot of steps, having to make believers, make believers along the way, and having to put yourself on self-tape, and then they always ask for more tape, more copy. Can you show us something else? And fortunately, at the time, I had finished working with Denzel Washington on Fences, so there was a screening that December of Fences, and so we were able to invite the writer and the producers to the screening. And when they walked out, they said, "Love your performance," and I think that pretty much sold it for you. And so that's sort of, in a nutshell, how it came about.
But see, what I find so fascinating with a role like this is that you're playing a father who loses a child. Like, I don't think there's a lot more devastating things that could happen to a person. And I chatted with Regina King last week about this, and she agreed that it was a very challenging aspect of taking on the role of Latrice. For you taking on this role as her husband, did it occur to you that this would probably take up some kind of emotional toll on you personally, and did it do that?
I knew it would, and it did. I didn't realize how much it would until I was actually on set and shooting it. Understand that at the time I had an 18-month-old son, and my wife was 7 months pregnant with our second child. And we're talking about 2 boys as well. And my family's in Los Angeles and I'm in New York, and I'm missing them immensely. And while you're on set dealing with such heart-wrenching material, every moment when I get home, I'm alone, and all I'm doing is thinking about my family. And there would be nights where I would literally weep, because of just the pain of the work and the pain of missing my family, and trying to sort of find a way to, have it all make sense for me emotionally. And you're lonely. And so the best I could do was to take all of that hurt, all of that pain, and put it into the character and put it into the work. And it took all of me. It was one of the most challenging role I had taken up to that point. And it affected me immensely. But it's one of those things where, as an actor, you really do have to dive right in and give everything you have.
Yeah. And what is absolutely so fascinating about this particular role is that as each episode passes, he spirals more and more out of control. His marriage has fallen apart. He's in serious pain. He's a man of faith, but is probably then even questioning that aspect of his very devout held part of his life. And so how did you feel his story arc went as you went on? What did you find that was just more and more challenging to start portraying a man who just pretty much had lost everything?
There was a definite challenge as each episode went on. The beautiful thing about the writing for me, and the beautiful thing about the platform for having it on Netflix, is that we were able to take our time, and that the character and the story was able to breathe. So Isaiah was able to really settle into his feelings and his emotions and his thoughts and his pain, and not have to rush anything. And so the beauty as an actor is to let all of those emotions fall on you, breathe, and then let it out, let it live. You know, every week you have to ask yourself, who am I today, and what part of me am I going to expose? You know, and so that was a challenge, because you really have to go deep inside yourself and your humanity, and open yourself up and just be naked and say, this is what hurts and this is what I'm suffering from, but I want to help you understand. I think that's the interesting thing. It's like, it's a parent thing, it's a father thing, it's a man thing. And instead of saying, which is what we do in our culture, is we say to people, you wouldn't understand. I think the best thing is to say, no, it's all of those things. Let me help you understand. And I think that was the idea that I had with the character, is I want to help the audience understand what this man is going through, what this family is going through, and what this father is going through, and let them help them understand so that they can empathize with the feelings and emotions.
Yeah, and then at a more bigger picture level and macro level, the show explores themes about race and law enforcement, grief, rage, injustice, socioeconomic class, drug addiction. I mean, it's a pretty heavy, they're heavy subjects to explore. What did you feel that the show most successfully said about what is going on in the United States today with respect to those issues?
Well, overall, what I felt it touched on, you know, when you're talking about macro, all of those points and all of those issues, is that it's not, and also how we got into this situation is that we're all a product of our environment. We're all a prey. We all prey victim to societal ills, right? And everybody at one point or another can fall victim to that, and nobody's exempt, you know, from society and their ills. So you're not exempt from how violence affects your culture, or how violence affects your family, how the effect of drugs or addiction, how that we're not immune to any of those things. But it's how you react to it, how you deal with it, how you internalize it, and try to, you know, deal with it as best you can. And also, I think what we did as a show is we shined a light and a lens on it. I don't think we judged it. I don't think we judged the characters. We said, this is life happening. This is a slice of life. This is a slice of humanity. Examine it and take from it what you will. And I think that's what, and then so how does that fall on you as an individual audience member or whatever? What do you take away from that? I think that was the beauty of it and the genius of it, is that we're not here to lay blame or point fingers at anybody. We're just here to tell you, this is what happens in our world, in our country, and in this culture.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. What I love to do with actors when I talk to them about projects is certain highlights of the season. For me, I was thinking like straight up episode 6, when you take the baseball bat to your son's room. And then I was like, no, hang on a second. It's when you're outside the courtroom and you're having that showdown with the character played by David Lyons. I thought, yes, that was amazing. And then you topped it at the end when you had that beautiful moment when your character is questioning whether his boy knew that he loved him, which completely just destroyed me. I'm wondering what was your particular highlight when you think back on your work on 7 Seconds?
You know, the first one you mentioned from episode 6, but it was actually the scene where his brother comes in. Actually, there's 2 more. The scene where his brother comes in and says, you know, Latrice is out there sitting on the street. And he says, you know, she can sit out, she'd rather be out there on the street than being at home. What am I supposed to do? But Seth says to him, I'm out there, I went to war fighting for you and your freedom. And my character gets up and he says, you know, do I look like I'm free? And that was the moment that crystallized everything for me as an actor, as a man, as a Black man in this country, and speaking for other people in this country and other other people of color, other minorities, or just people in general. Are we really free? And if we are, how free are we? And so you're saying that, you know, I'm free, but I have to go to this job every day and work 12 hours for minimum wage or $1 over minimum wage. And I have to come over and pay 60, 70, 80% of my salary to pay the rent and the bills and everything. And there's just enough for me to eke out a little bit of joy. Is that really freedom? And that to me, it was just the most resonant moment, because those are the questions I think when people are alone, when they're just thinking about their life, I think they ask themselves those questions. Am I free? And if I am, how free am I? And then if I may, the last moment in episode 10, when the brother comes back, and again, just a moment between two brothers, two loved ones, and two men, where a man says to his brother, after having repressed all of these emotions and all of this pain, to say to somebody, I'm sorry. Like, how we don't see that. Just to say, just simply, I'm sorry. And there's no explanation, you know what I mean, that you can say. I can't say I'm sorry, I did. It's just heartfelt. Man, after all that happened in our life, after all we experienced, the best I can say, and the only thing I have to say to you is, I'm sorry. And if we can get to a pure moment like that, just in humanity, just in our lives, what that would do, you know what I mean? Like, there's a saying, a minute is a measure of time, but a moment is a measure of meaning. And there's a meaningful moment between those two men and those two brothers, where for the first time, I think in their lives, where they really see each other for who they are. And I think that was just an emotional, devastatingly beautiful moment for me as an actor, more than anything else.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack from 7 Seconds. We could really talk all day. I will probably now get a little bit more superficial, if I may. Given that 7 Seconds is all over the Emmy ballot, Emmy voters are voting, and hopefully we'll see some 7 Seconds nominations. But you're no stranger to awards, because you're obviously, as you mentioned, in Fences as part of the fantastic ensemble of that film, and you received a SAG nomination as part of the ensemble. What was that like, to be part of your team representing the film at the Screen Actors Guild Awards?
It was surreal. I mean, honestly, like, doing the project was a dream come true, and everything that came that came as a part of it was an honor and a dream come true. You know what I mean? Like, first of all, I'm with one of my childhood acting idols, Denzel Washington. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. And working with him on such a meaningful project, and all that I learned from him, you know, as an actor and as a human being and as an artist, that's, as the old folks say, that's swimming in high cotton. You know what I mean? And obviously working alongside Viola. So it was, I mean, honestly, it's a dream come true. Just like, I go down in history as being the first one to bring August Wilson to screen as a major motion picture, part of that first cast. And I can take that with me wherever I go. And I was honored and privileged, you know, just to be a part of it, you know. All the awards and just all the accolades that we got, and the, you know, the respect and recognition that you get from your peers is beautiful. It really is.
Yeah, I always say this, doesn't matter what you do, there's nothing better than a pat on the back from the people that matter to you. And that is exactly what that is. Yes. My final question is, I have to do this, otherwise I'll get caned on social media, but obviously you're very well known for your work on Grimm.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, if you could pick one highlight from your work on that very different show to what you have been doing now, what would it be?
Honestly, it will have to be, in the last season, me singing to the mirror, singing the Marvin Gaye song, singing to the mirror, and having, you know, drank the potion and found this, and I found the love lust with myself, with Hank. And because honestly, it was the most freeing time I had on the show, where I was able to just have some unabashed fun. You know what I mean? Like, just let it go. All the seriousness of like the creatures and everything. It was just like, just have some fun. Like, you know, and And initially I was like, because truthfully, honestly, I was a little reticent to do it, you know, initially. And then I was kind of doing it tentatively and this and that. And one of the actor friends, Sasha, said, Russell, this is you. Like, this is part of who you are. Like, just give it up. Come on, man. And so I did, and that's what we got. And so it was about letting go, you know, Frozen. Let it go, let it go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. I've got little kids, so that song is implanted in my brain.
Yes.
Russell, mate, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on a really wonderful performance in 7 seconds. Hopefully we'll see you on the red carpet.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, and we are